Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. We're on page 111. We're going to begin chapter 5. It's March 1883 in Kolkata, and this is the first discussion. It was the dark fortnight, the 16th day of Chaitra, Thursday, the 31st of March, 1883. And I want you to know that's according to the Bengali calendar. This is not according to the Sanskrit calendar, because if it was the dark fortnight, there would only be 15 days. The previous night, Sri Ramakrishna had participated in an all-night singing of songs, feasting, and prayer. And today, after his midday meal, he was taking rest. His room was located to the east of the Kali temple, and to the west, the Ganga River was flowing. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was a strong wind and lots of waves on the Ganga. A few devotees had assembled in the master's room. Trilokya was present. He was a great singer who sang for the gatherings of the Brahma Samaj. His singing would invariably captivate the minds of his listeners and create a mood of harmony and spiritual depth in their hearts. Raquel was not feeling well. The master was discussing his illness with the other devotees. Look at him taking his medicine. If he just took plain soda water, wouldn't that help? What will happen to Raquel? He has fallen ill. Raquel, you should eat some Jagannath Prasadam. Speaking in this way, the master went into a deeply spiritual mood that was wonderful to witness. Everyone present felt that the actual form of Narayan had manifested right before them. On one side was Raquel, a pure-souled devotee who had renounced all worldly attachments and desires and who was feeling ill. On the other side was the divine countenance of the revered Ramakrishna, the manifestation of the highest divinity with tears of love in his eyes. Ramakrishna gazed at Raquel as if he were his own child, treating him with unbounded love and affection. He began to call with the greatest love, Govinda, Govinda. It was just like the mother Yashoda calling to her child Krishna. After reciting the name Govinda, Sri Ramakrishna went into Samadhi. His whole body was perfectly still. All of his senses and his organs of knowledge and action were totally inactive. There was neither movement of his nostrils nor fluttering of his eyelids. No one could tell if he was breathing or not. He was still, just like a statue. It seemed as though his soul had taken wings like a bird and flown high up into the sky. Until just previously, he had been calling on God to protect his child, and now, where had he gone? It was a wonderful sight to see someone so engrossed in the name of God, and then in the next moment, deep in Samadhi. At this time, an unknown sannyasi wearing the Garua cloth came into the room and took a seat. One gentleman named Mani Malik was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He was about 60 or 65 years old, and some days before he had gone to the temple of Vishwanath in Kashi, that's Benares, to pay homage to the deity. Today he had come with the same kind of reverence to visit Sri Ramakrishna. He began to speak about his experiences in Benares. He said, I met a sadhu who told me that until you have controlled your senses, you can't have spiritual experiences. He said that by only calling on God, nothing will happen. Ramakrishna. So you know their opinion? First, you need sadhana, peacefulness, compassion, and going beyond the mind. You see, these are seekers of nirvana. They are followers of non-dualist Vedanta. They believe that Brahman, the supreme reality, is real and that the perceivable world is false. This is a very difficult path. If you say that the world is false, then you too are false. The very words you are speaking are false, like a dream. After you burn camphor, nothing remains. If you burn wood, at least there's some ashes. Ultimately, your contemplation takes you into Samadhi. Then this concept of I and you and the entire perceivable world disappears. Ramakrishna. Pandit Padmalochan was a very wise and renowned scholar. Yet even though I call on the Divine Mother, he had great trust and faith in me. Padmalochan was the chief pundit of the Maharaja Burdwan. He had come to Kolkata to have a discussion with Vidyasagar and was staying in a garden house. I sent Hridoy to call on him and ask him to come here. I had heard that he had no ego, and I wanted to see if he had ego or not. He came to see me. He was so wise and a very renowned pundit, yet when he heard the songs of Ram Prasad, he began to cry. After our discussion, he said that he had not found that kind of comfort and pleasure anywhere else. He said, I enjoy satsang, the company of devotees. If one abandons the company of devotees of God, then one surely falls from the spiritual path. He was the guru of Vaishnavacharya. He was a very pure soul. Ramakrishna. Once Padmalochan was asked by the Brahmin pundits, who is greater, Shiva or Brahma? He was such a simple and humble soul, he replied to them, no one in 24 generations of my family has ever seen Shiva, and none has seen Brahma either. When he heard that I had renounced all desires and attachments to this world, he said to me, why are you abandoning all that? The distinction that this is gold and this is mud comes from ignorance. I said, I don't know why, Father. I just don't like to be in association with money. Ramakrishna. There was one pundit who had great egoism. He didn't even believe in the forms of God. Who can understand God's ways? Then God showed him the primal Shakti. The pundit was completely overwhelmed for a long time. When he finally regained some consciousness, he began to call out Kali's name. A devotee. Revered sir, have you met Vidyasagar? What did you think of him? Ramakrishna. Vidyasagar is a greatly learned man and he has great compassion, but he does not have inner perception. There is gold in his heart, but it is hidden. If he had once found the gold that is within him, his outer works would diminish, and ultimately he would renounce it all. Within his inner heart, within the essence of his being, God resides. If one can understand and realize this, then contemplation of God becomes the #1 preoccupation of one's mind. If one performs action without desire and attachment for a long time, ultimately that renunciation purifies the mind. Then the mind is drawn to God. The works that Vidyasagar is performing on behalf of of God are very noble. He has great compassion. But there is a distinction between compassion and delusion. Compassion is good, but not delusion. Maya likes to bind one with relationships. This is my wife, my child, my niece, my son, and so on. I love only my relatives. With compassion, all are equally loved. The second discussion. M. Is compassion also a source of bondage? Ramakrishna. Compassion arises from sattva, the quality of truth, and it is protected by the quality of truth. The quality of action gives it birth, rajas. Tamas is the quality of illusion. Brahman, the supreme divinity, is beyond the qualities. It's beyond nature. You can't reach the supreme divinity as long as the qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas remain. They are like thieves who can't enter wherever they please because they might get caught. The three qualities or gunas are all thieves. I will tell a story. Please listen. There was a man who was walking on a path through a forest. At some point in his journey, 3 thieves captured him and stole all his goods. One of the thieves said, "What good is this person to us now? We've stolen all of his things." The thief then pulled out his sword and was about to slay the man when the second thief said, "Why should we kill him? Let's just bind his hands and feet and throw him in a ditch." Like most of us. They all decided that was a good idea, so they bound his hands and feet, they tied him up and threw him in the ditch. And then they left with all his goods. After some time, the third thief began to think. He came back to where the victim was lying and said, "You've been injured very badly. I'm going to untie the bonds that bind you." He cut open the bonds and said to the victim, "Come with me and I'll put you on a safe path." After a long time, they reached the main road. The thief said to the victim, "Travel along this path. If you proceed in this direction, you will soon see your house." Then the victim said to the thief, "My friend, you have been so kind to me. Please come with me and stay at my house." The thief said, "No, I'm not free to go to your house. The police will surely capture me there. They will know that I am a thief." Ramakrishna. The forest in the story is this world of objects and relationships. As we proceed through the forest, the 3 qualities of sattva, tamas, and rajas are the thieves. They destroy our understanding and bind us. Tamas wants to slay the living being, the jiva, the life. Rajas binds us to objects and relationships. Sattva saves the individual from the bondage of tamas and rajas. Sattva is also a thief, though, because it cannot give us the knowledge of truth. So it shows us the straight path to our home. Sattva says to you, "Hey, look over there. You can see your house. Just proceed that way toward the wisdom of supreme divinity." Sattva is far, far away from the ultimate wisdom of supreme divinity. What Brahman is, what that supreme divinity is, we cannot explain in words. Whoever has known it has never been capable of explaining it in words. Ramakrishna. It is said that if a boat ventures into the dark waters of the ocean, it never returns. Listen to a story. 4 friends were traveling about. They came to a great wall during their travels, a very high wall indeed. Everybody asked, what's on the other side of the wall? Finally, one friend climbed up the wall. He climbed to the top and looked at what was beyond. He exclaimed, "Ah! Ah!" and leapt in. So who would give the news of what they experienced? Whoever is on the other side of the wall. Sukdev, Janak, and Bharat all had Brahmagyan. They all had the realization of the Supreme Divinity, but they could not communicate what they knew. When you have the wisdom of Supreme Divinity, when you move into Samadhi, I does not remain. And that's why Ram Prasad said, and we'll ask Ma to sing it for us in Bengali when she comes to join our class next. If you can't change my mind into absolute purity, then don't take me. I want the total dissolution of my mind, and I want the dissolution of all this principle of ego. Then I can have the wisdom of Supreme Divinity. Ramakrishna. Some people say that Shukdev only touched the ocean of supreme wisdom, but didn't submerge himself. That's why he was able to come back and give so many instructions. Others say that he did attain to the highest wisdom, but then came back in order to teach people through his discourse to Parikshit on the wisdom of the Bhagavad. Remember, Parikshit was the king who listened to the Bhagavad when he was cursed to die within 7 days by a snake bite. In order to teach Parikshit the wisdom of the Bhagavad, Shuk didn't dissolve his ego completely, but maintained a little bit so that he could come back and teach the world through his discourse to Parikshit. He saved and preserved just a little bit of ego for the dissemination of knowledge and wisdom. Chapter 6, July 1883, Kolkata. This is the first discussion. It was the third day of the Bengali month of Ashar, Sunday, the 22nd of July, 1883. It was Krishna Paksha. All the devotees had come to have darshan of the revered Paramahamsa, Ramakrishna. Many devotees were not able to come during the week, so this was a special occasion. On Sundays, many more were free to come and see the Master. After lunch, Sri Ramakrishna had taken some rest. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Adhar, Rakal, and M arrived by horse carriage from Kolkata. Mani Malik and some of the other devotees were sitting in the Master's room. To the east side of Rani Rasmani's Kali Mandir was the temple of Radha Krishna. On the west side of the compound were the 12 Shiva Lingams. To the north of these 12 Jyoti Lingams was Sri Ramakrishna's room. Just outside the western entrance of his room was a beautiful veranda overlooking the Ganga, where the Master often stood gazing at the sacred river. Between the river and Ramakrishna's room was a beautiful little garden filled with fragrant flowers. The fragrance from this garden traveled far, all the way to the southern border of the south garden, and to the north, all the way to the Panchavati, the 5 trees where he performed so many austerities, and all the way to the eastern gate where one entered the Dakshineshwar temple compound. Just outside the door to Sri Ramakrishna's room stood 2 Krishnachura trees. Near to them was a gardenia bush. Krishnachura is a big red flower, almost like a magnolia, but in red. Near to them was a gardenia bush. Beautiful nightingales sang in the trees, and a lovely shrub with red flowers grew just below where the birds were singing. It was a hibiscus, a jabush. Often when people walked along the path beside Sri Ramakrishna's room and they looked inside, they saw him seated in meditation. Even the sacred Ganga was blessed by seeing the master absorbed in meditation. Within the room, on one wall, a photograph of Ramakrishna was hung. There was also a picture of St. Peter, who had lost his faith and fallen into the water. Jesus was holding him by the hand and lifting him up. There was also a small image of Buddha on a shelf. Ramakrishna was sitting on the wooden cot facing the west. Many devotees had assembled in the room. One was seated on a small stool, and a couple more were sitting on cushions. They were all gazing with great delight and with one pointed concentration at the master, the embodiment of bliss. Through the open door, one could see the river Ganga flowing by. It was the rainy season and the flow was rather heavy. It seemed as though the river was trying to quickly unite with its goal, the ocean. The second discussion about the Gerua color and sannyas. Pretending is not good, Sri Rama said as he came out from Samadhi. He was filled with the divine presence as he began to speak. The words were coming as if of their own accord. He asked the question rhetorically, why should one wear Gerua? If you wear a white cloth, that is all right. It's enough. Why the Gerua cloth? Everyone in the room began to laugh. Someone quoted from a story. Once he chanted the Chundi, but now he is playing a drum. Everyone laughed. Meaning once he was a very great Gyani, and now he's a Bhakta. Ramakrishna, there are various types of renunciation. Some individuals wear the Gerua cloth even in the midst of worldly interaction and worldly attachment. This type of renunciation does not last very long. Others, as if they had no karma left, put on the Gerua cloth and depart for Benares. But after 3 or 4 months, a letter arrives at his home. I have found a good job here, and I'll come home for a visit after a few days. There is another type of renunciation. In his home, he has everything he needs, but he is not attached to any of it. In secret, he always cries for God. This type of renunciation is the true one. It is real without any duplicity. Falsehood is not good, and acting falsely is also not good. If you wear the Gerua, you are showing your renunciation to many people. It is better to wear the white cloth and inwardly be a renunciant than to walk around showing your renunciation to all. You are wearing the Gerua cloth, the symbol of renunciation, and yet within you are full of anger, passion, greed, jealousy, and all the other qualities which you profess to have transcended. What is the benefit of wearing the Gerua cloth? Better is the white cloth. Ramakrishna went to see a drama in Keshav Sen's house called the New Vrindavan. There he saw an actor who was dancing in a crazy way. He was sprinkling water all over everyone, saying, "This is the water of peace." Another actor appeared to be quite intoxicated, as though in a stupor. Ramakrishna, it is not appropriate for people to demonstrate their devotion by acting in a crazy way. By acting as though one is intoxicated, after a while, one actually acquires those undesirable traits. The mind is like a white cloth just back from the laundryman. Whatever colored dye you dip the cloth into, that is the color the cloth will absorb and become. If you fill your mind with untruthfulness again and again, then your mind will reflect untruth. One day, Sri Ramakrishna went to see a play about Chaitanya at Keshav's house. Those who were playing the parts were not professionals and acted very poorly. One gentleman commented, "In this Kali Yuga, in this age of darkness, even Chaitanya is not convincing." Keshav began to laugh and said, "Why? Did something happen to Chaitanya?" Ramakrishna, complaining to Keshav, "You invited all these people here to see a religious drama, but you didn't inquire as to what sort of people were to perform the drama. You didn't inquire into the quality of the actors." Keshav was only thinking of his own name and fame. Another day, several devotees were present. Ramakrishna began to speak to Narendra, who would later become Swami Vivekananda. Ramakrishna: "These young men, Narendra, Rakal, are among the eternally perfect beings. Such people are born life after life as devotees of God. Many people do a little bit of sadhana, maybe gain a little bit of devotion, but these two are born in every life with full devotion to God. It is just like a natural Shiva lingam that is rooted deep in the earth. It is not the same as a Shiva lingam that has been constructed by man. These eternally attained beings always keep a little separate from the world. There is an old Bengali saying, 'The beaks of all birds are not bent.' They never develop attachment to the world, just like Prahlad. Normal people do normal things, and they may have a little devotion to God, but they also have attachment to this world. In fact, they become hypnotized by their attachments and desires. A fly sits sometimes on a flower and sometimes on delicious sweets. Sometimes it also sits on a pile of filth." Everyone in the room became very quiet. "Those who are eternally perfect beings are like the bees, who will only sit on a flower and sip the nectar. They only drink the nectar of God consciousness. And that's why Srima always tells us, be a bee. Don't be a machi. Don't be a fly. Flies are always flitting about and they have no discrimination. In fact, they like the dirtier places better. The filthier it is, the more the flies enjoy. Bees go directly to the flower and go directly to the center of the flower and drink the nectar. They have pure discrimination. Be a bee and not a fly." The devotion that sadhus derive from their sadhana is not the same as the devotion of worldly people. Worldly devotion always calculates. I have to do this much japa. I have to sit for so many hours of meditation. I have to do that much worship. They keep an account of how much they do. When they harvest the rice and spread it out on the pathway to drive, you have to walk around it to pass. When you come upon a cow that is nursing its calf, you don't go right up to it. You step around it. If you go by boat to a far-off village, you must follow all the bends and curves of the river. In order to have a real loving devotion to God, you must have a living relationship with God. When you have pure loving devotion to God, you love God as your own nearest and dearest relation. When you realize God's holy presence and your relationship to Him, there is no more discipline that you must practice. Then you can cross, as it were, directly over the rice field after the harvest. You don't have to walk around the border of the field. You just walk straight across. When a flood comes, you don't have to follow a twisted, winding river. You can row your boat in a straight course right across the land. If you don't have this kind of loving, sincere devotion, it is impossible to have a vision of God. The discussion turns to the subject of Samadhi. Amrit. Great Sir Mahashai, please tell us about your experiences in Samadhi. What do you experience? Ramakrishna. Listen, it is as if you had a fish in a small pot and you suddenly released it into the Ganga. Amrit. Does any ego consciousness remain when you go into Samadhi? Ramakrishna. Yes. Usually I have a little bit of ego that stays with me. I have one little piece of gold. However much you may rub a piece of gold against a brick, a small piece will always remain. In the same way, a little bit of external consciousness remains even in Samadhi because of old desires. A little bit of duality remains in order to enjoy a relationship with God. But sometimes he takes even that I and makes it disappear. This is called deep Samadhi, without form or idea, nirvikalpa. Then what remains? You cannot describe it in words. Just like a salt doll went to measure the ocean, as soon as he touched the water, he dissolved. Then who will come back and give the news? How could he return and explain the vastness of the ocean? What we call supreme divinity is also the supreme energy. As long as you have consciousness of your body, you have to understand that both are present. When you speak, someone must be there to listen. Keshav believed in the supreme divinity in the form of Kali. One day, Keshav came with his disciples to see us. I said to him, I'm going to listen to your lecture. We sat underneath the moon and he gave a lecture. Then we went down to the cot and sat on the stairs and talked for a long time. That which we call the supreme divinity is also the form of a devotee. He is also the form of the scripture. Keshav said that the scripture, devotee, and God are one. When I said you have to say Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnava Dharma are one, Keshav answered, I haven't reached that far. Then people will call me fair. When Ramakrishna saw Keshav's unconsciousness and the play of the Divine Mother, he realized how difficult it was to move beyond the three gunas before God realization. If you don't attain to godliness, it can't be accomplished. The individual soul remains bound by Maya. This Maya, illusion, does not allow us to know what is God. This Maya has made mankind unconscious and ignorant. Hridai bought a newborn calf. I saw that he tied the calf up in the garden so he could eat the grass. I asked him, Hridai, why do you tie up the calf every day in the garden? Hridai, Uncle, one day I'm going to send him home to our village. When he gets big, he'll pull our plow. When he said that, I became unconscious. I thought to myself, what kind of play of illusion is this? How far away is Kamarpukur, our village, from where we are in Kolkata? Will this calf be able to go the distance? Will he grow up over there and then some days later he will pull the plow? This is called samsara, illusion. After some time, I regained consciousness. Samadhi in the temple. Ramakrishna used to go into Samadhi in the darkest part of night. In the day or night, he could go at any time. He would only come to waking consciousness from time to time to sing kirtan with his devotees or talk about God. M saw him about 3 or 4 times. Ramakrishna was sitting on the small cot that stood in front of the larger bed, and he was full of bhava. After a while, he began talking with the Divine Mother. Mother, why did you give a banana to M? He remained silent for some time, and then he said, Ma, I understand. 1 banana is more than sufficient. With 1 banana, all your work will be complete. He will become a source of great teaching to many God-hungry souls. Ramakrishna could perceive that their inner capacities and therefore awaken the energy within each devotee. Along with him, Rakal was also sitting in the room. Ramakrishna was full of bhava. Ramakrishna to Rakal. Did you get angry with me? Why did I make you angry? There is meaning to this. In order to get the proper dosage of medicine, one must restrict the flow of medicine out of the bottle. Ramakrishna, after some time, I saw Hazara, and he is a very slender, dried-up being, dry as wood. Why does he stay here? There's meaning here. When one is very clever, he makes a big drama, adding nourishment to the play. Ramakrishna to M. You have to believe in the imperishable qualities of God. Do you know the meaning of the form of Jagaddatri, the goddess who supports the perceivable universe? If she is supporting the entire perceivable universe, didn't hold aloft and protect the universe would fall down and be destroyed. When you want your mind to sit still, you must go into the heart of Jagaddatri. Rakal. Mind is the measurement of all. Ramakrishna. Singhabahini is she who sits upon a lion. The lion is the one who scared away the elephant. Who is that wild elephant that her lion of Dharma scared away? The uncontrolled mind. At evening prayers, there was arati in Ramakrishna's room, after which he visited the temple arati. After arati in the temple, Ramakrishna returned to his room. They lit some frankincense, and the fragrant smoke poured forth. That's to chase all the mosquitoes away. They filled the room with frankincense and dust so that all the mosquitoes fled. Ramakrishna listened to the songs of praise while sitting on the small cot and started immersing himself in thoughts of the divine. Govinda Mukherjee from Bulgaria came with several friends and bowed down to Ramakrishna. And Rakal were sitting there too. Outside, the moon had risen and the world was laughing silently. Everyone was sitting silently inside the room and looking at the peaceful countenance of Ramakrishna. He was filled with bhava. After some time, he began speaking, still in bhava, about the form of the Dark One, Kali. Ramakrishna. She is Purush and Prakriti. She is the illusion created from their union. She is Shiva and Kali, and she is the form of Radha and Krishna. What is a great devotee, and what is the path of contemplation? Ramakrishna, speaking full of bhava. Whatever doubts you have, I'm going to clarify them right now. Govinda and the other devotees began thinking. Govinda, why does Kali have this form? Why does she look like that? Ramakrishna, because she's very far away. If you get really close, she has no form at all, no color. Deep water looks very dark from afar, but has no color of its own. If you scoop a handful of water from the pond, you see it has no color. The closer you get to God, the greater the feeling that He has no form or name. If you go farther away, He becomes Kali. It's like the color of the flowers or grass. She is neither Purush nor Prakriti, neither male nor female, neither consciousness nor nature. One devotee performed puja, worship. Another came and had darshan and saw that the murti was wearing a sacred thread traditionally reserved for male Brahmins. He asked the pujari, "Why did you put a sacred thread around the Divine Mother?" The priest answered, "Brother, you must have understood who is mother. I can't understand who she is. Is she male or is she female? I don't know. That's why I gave her a sacred thread." The Dark One, Kali, is also Brahma, the supreme divinity beyond form. She has form and then again no form. She has qualities and she is also beyond qualities. The supreme divinity is energy and energy is the supreme divinity. They are indistinguishable. They are the manifestations of truth, consciousness, and bliss. And they are beyond the manifestations of truth, consciousness, and bliss. Govinda. Why do they call her Yogamaya, the illusion that comes from union? Ramakrishna. Yogamaya means the union between Purush and Prakriti, consciousness and nature. Whatever form you see is only and always the union of Purush and Prakriti. In the images of Shiva and Kali, Kali is dancing on the chest of Shiva and Shiva looks like a corpse. Kali only has eyes for Shiva. All this is the union of Purush and Prakriti. Purush is without action, and that is why Shiva looks like a corpse. In union with Purush, it is Prakriti who is performing all the action. Mother Nature dancing upon the stage of consciousness. She creates, protects, and transforms all that comes into being. The meaning of the image of Radha Krishna is the same. Because of their union, they have an inseparable attitude. This union is made apparent by the pearl nose ring Sri Krishna wears, while Radha wears a blue stone in her nose. Radha's body is radiant like a golden pearl. Sri Krishna has a dark bluish-black complexion. That is why Radha likes to wear a blue stone, Sri Krishna wears a yellow cloth, and Radha wears blue. Who is an excellent devotee? Whoever, after seeing this wisdom of supreme divinity, understands that God is this life and this perceivable universe. God is the 24 principles that takes us to that realization. First, by discriminating not this and not that, you reach the roof. Once you reach the roof, you are able to see that the materials that comprise it are bricks, mortar, and a frame. Then you see that the stairs are made of the same material that the roof is made of. Next, you will see that the supreme divinity comprises the entire universe as well as all the individual phenomena within it. One needs only to contemplate. These calculating ideas bring no fruit. They are only the dry thoughts of a calculating mind. Ramakrishna spit, as if to say, waste of time. Why will you sit there idly lost in very dry thoughts? As long as you and I are here, let's have pure devotion. Let us enjoy being in this garden of delight and stop endlessly counting the trees and flowers. Ramakrishna to Govinda. Sometimes I say to Mother, you are me and I am you. Then sometimes you are only you. Then sometimes I search for myself, but I can't find my I. My I has dissolved in you. This energy is the incarnated spirit. On one hand is Ram, and on the other hand is Krishna. In the ocean of bliss and consciousness, these are waves. After you have achieved the wisdom of non-duality, you gain full consciousness. Then you see that all manifested existence is nothing but a form of consciousness. God is present in everything and is everywhere. After you have achieved the divine consciousness, there's a lot of bliss. Why? Because the consciousness beyond duality is eternal bliss. As Sri Ram, God has form. Ramakrishna, when you have desires for enjoyment, you have sincerity with a certain compulsion. Ramakrishna to M. I'm telling you, don't search for this eternal form. You must try not to distinguish between form and eternal form. Have faith that divinity with form exists. Whatever form you prefer, meditate upon it. Ramakrishna to Govinda. You know, so long as you have worldly desires, it is impossible for you to know God. As soon as you start playing with your children, you forget all about divinity. It's like a child who, when he receives sweets from his mother, forgets all about his difficulties or pain. In this same way, when he doesn't like the game anymore or the sweets, he cries, "Ma, I don't want any more sweets." Whoever doesn't understand or isn't able to see says, "Take me to my mother." The child will go with whoever volunteers to take him to his mother, whoever will carry him there. When you get tired of the enjoyments of this world, then you get a sense of compulsion and sincerity in your longing for God. How will I find Him? Becomes your only contemplation and the number one preoccupation of your mind. You then look sincerely for the one who can instruct you, a true guru. M, softly to himself, when your worldly desires and all your desires for the pleasures of the world go away, then you get the sincerity in your search for God. Om. Are there any questions about the two chapters that we've read tonight?
Swamiji, I have a question about the ego. When we observe our actions, can we discern that our ego is active? What would be a way to discern that our ego is active from observing our actions?
When we observe our actions, if we really contemplate them as our actions, then my ego is there. I am the owner of the action. So it's the action of I. It's my action. Now, when I could really make myself a servant of God, I can say it's your action. I've performed it for you. I'm giving this to you. And whatever the fruit will be to you. I'm the servant of God. Are there other questions?
Swamiji, a question from Nanda from San Jose.
Namaste, Nanda.
Pranam Swamiji, it's so easy to love one's own family since there is a sense of shared understanding and common background. How does one feel love for those where there is nothing in common? Tolerance, I understand, but how to feel that love? Thank you.
To experience your love for others, you just have to perceive the divinity within them, perceive the lovable within them, and then love that. You don't love a person you don't know. You don't love their name because you don't know their name. You don't love their form because you really don't know what it contains. But within that form, you know there's a divinity that's manifest. And you can project. If you can love a murti, if you can love a statue, if you can love a stone or a Shiva lingam, if you can love a flower or a candle, You could love anything you want, or everyone you choose.
Question from Parvati from Sacramento.
Namaste, Parvati Ma.
Namaste Swamiji, of all the gunas, would it be better to concentrate on the sattvic qualities and develop them as we all have egos and still have to deal with Maya? Thank you.
Certainly we want to cultivate sattva, but we realize that all three gunas are always with us all the time. So really, the ideal will be, while we are cultivating sattva, to put all the three gunas in harmony and balance and become nirguna. And let only sattva be expressed when we feel the need to express rajas or tamas. Go into your inner apartment and close the door, and don't let that tamas or rajas escape into the world. Lock it in your bedroom. Lock it in your temple.
Swamiji, question from Kumari from Valley Hill.
Namaste, Kumari Ma.
How can a sadhak give 100% of mind to God and still function on a material level as jiva?
Kumari, I know that I am doing God's work, just as she instructed me. And now I'm serving her by performing all the functions that I perform in this world. And sometimes I get to drive her car, and sometimes I get to negotiate her business, and sometimes I get to fix her computer, and sometimes I get to answer her email, and sometimes I can come back to her and sit with her and say, Mom, I've done all the work. Can I just sit here with you for a little bit? And sometimes she says, yes.
Swamiji, another question from Kumari. Ramakrishna was the Kalpataru or wish-fulfilling tree for his disciples in his last days. Is Ramakrishna the Kalpataru even today for those devotees who love and worship him?
Yes, he is. Everybody who loves and worships anyone, they find the Kalpataru. If you love or worship in any form of divinity, Ramakrishna is there as the Kalpataru. He's blessing that love and that worship. So certainly it's true. He's eternal as the Kalpataru. He gives the blessing.
Swamiji, on page 124,
yes,
there's a discussion with Hriday and Thakur Ramakrishna.
Yes.
And Thakur Ramakrishna says this is samsara. Does that mean samsara is that dream or the greed that we'll take this little calf?
Well, actually, samsara means the world of all, the ocean of all. The sara is the ocean, and sam means all. So etymologically, samsara is the ocean of all. Now, practically, it means all objects that are manifest in the world. They are manifested in existence. And the relationship between every object and every other object. Every atom has a relationship to every other atom. Just as every grain of rice in our Havenkund has a relationship to every other grain of rice. This one's a little nearer to me, and that one's a little farther from me. And the same is true in the ocean of the universe. Every atom has a relationship to every other atom. So that's the sansara. But here Ramakrishna is saying, see, Hriday is thinking one day he's going to go back to his village, and at that time, and he doesn't know when that is, but sometime when he does go, some years from now, this little calf will have grown up into a bullock, And then maybe I'll pull that bullock all the way back as we walk back to my village, and I'll gift him to the farmers of my village, and he can pull the plow. Ramakrishna says, look at this Maya. He has no idea when it's going to happen, or how it's going to happen, or if it can happen. He's just dreaming, well, it's a possibility that could happen, so let's start trying to fulfill the possibility. And that's the sansar, this ocean of worldliness.
Swamiji, Rakal Maharaj says that mind is measurement of all.
Yes.
What does that mean? On page 126
Yes.
he says that.
Mind is the measurement of all, means that all that you can think of that's the measurement. All that you can think of, that's the expansive, that's the extent of your mind. Now, that doesn't mean that is all that exists. Mind is all that I can think of. It's the measurement of all. It's Maya. Mind is the manifestation of Maya to me. Because all that I can think of. The measurement of all. And that's Maya. And that's my mind. Is full of Maya. The measurement of all. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.